Can we find inefficiencies in the specialty PCETB market? We shall see. And I'm only doing the specialty PCETBs right now. I think eventually I'll probably just do the list of all the PCETBs. The difficulty here is that I did compiled data from both eBay and TCG Player. Again, this is a spreadsheet that took me way too long. I would appreciate if you could subscribe or like the video down below, boost the algorithm for me putting in way too much time into this. Because I manually counted sales on eBay. There's probably a better way to do it, but I wanted to get the last 30 days of sales instead of the last 90 days, which is what eBay shows. So I sort of consolidated that. But yeah, I wanted to do the specialty sets specifically because they do not have booster boxes like all the mainline sets. And I do think there is some opportunities here if you are in the market for PC ETBs, potentially regular ETBs, but today we're just looking at specialty PC ETBs. So everything I've highlighted in green is kind of like a bullish indicator in my opinion, and then yellow is kind of like approaching or close to there. But yeah, let's go through it. I have them ranked from newest to oldest set, starting with Prismatic. So Prismatic, I think, just to get the elephant in the room out of the way, Prismatic obviously has the most supply on the market by far for any of these sets because it is the newest. It has also been reprinted, and I believe they restocked the PCETBs a few weeks and or months later, and it actually was a pretty sizable amount. So, but with that being said, what I want to draw your attention to is we have, our recent sales. So on eBay, I sort of just took an average, and then TCG Player, they have the market data for me. And then I took averages of those sales. And then for availabilities and quantities, I just added the sum of both of those two platforms. So for eBay, recent sales were around 290 for Prismatic PCETBs. On TCG Player, I think market was 268, which is actually a fair amount lower. Average is about 280. Lowest list is around that same price, 275. The most interesting metric, I think, really is at the current price points, how many are available on the market currently and how many are selling in a 30-day period. Because what you'll see here is that, if I did, again, these are probably off by a few, like in eBay, when I'm scrolling and counting every single PCETB, there's some people who bundle them with other things. There's some people who do 2 PCETBs in a listing. And so those numbers are probably plus or minus a few, but the actual difference here is crazy. And it still shows me the data point, in my opinion, that Prismatic is likely going to, the loose PCETBs are likely going to see an uptick soon. That's just my opinion, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Let's get that disclaimer out of the way. This is just my opinion. So one of the reasons is the 30-day sell-through is 111 ETBs higher than the current supply on the market. So if everything keeps up the way it's going, which I don't see any indicator why it would not, these are going to be, it's going to burn through the market in terms of those lower priced PCETBs, in my opinion, unless someone dumps a bunch of them, which again is still a risk that needs to be acknowledged. But this also includes things that are way overpriced, or listings that are way overpriced. So if someone has their PCETB, a single PCETB listed for 500, that is also being included in here because I didn't want to have to dig through every single outlier. So bullish indicator there, in my opinion. The sell-through is very high for Prismatic compared to what's currently on the market, despite what everyone thinks as far as PCETBs goes. Loose ETBs, I just took the value of the regular and multiplied it out by 4. And then the cases, there's actually what I want to show here. So loose ETBs, the average is around 1,100 for 4 of the PC ETBs. And then for the cases, you're getting around $1,550, $1,500 to $1,600, let's say. Again, the availability of the cases, the 30-day sell-through of the cases I highlighted in yellow because it's pretty close to the total availability currently on the market. Again, some cases are priced extremely high, and so in my opinion, they're probably neck and neck, honestly, how many are selling versus how many are on the market. There's 25 on eBay, 21 on TCG Player, 27 sold on eBay in the last 30 days, 12 sold on TCG Player in the last 30 days. The biggest indicator for me with Prismatic PCETBs right now is that the actual ratio of loose to cases is pretty in favor of the loose boxes or the loose PCETBs right now, in my opinion, compared to some of these other sets, other specialty sets. And we'll talk about how that's the opposite is true with Shrouded. But essentially what I did is just take the price of 4 loose ETBs and divide it into the price of a sealed case. So obviously there is a case premium, so I don't expect it to be a 1-to-1 when you have 4 of them, 4 loose. But, 72% of what the sealed case is, in my opinion, is sort of in that yellowish orangish area where, like, again, the loose PC ETBs seem like a pretty good pickup in my opinion. I don't see why they shouldn't be a little bit closer to these sort of 80, 85, 90% that a lot of these other specialty ETBs are. That's just something I'm pointing out. I'm not saying it's, a very obvious metric, but I just wanted to make that clear. And then I will look into this more in the future, but I just included the month over month changes price wise from TCG Player. So loose PC ETBs are up 2.4%. The cases are up 1.5%. No big moves in the last month price wise, but I do think the supply is getting chewed through at a pretty rapid rate, mostly on the single loose PC ETB side. So pay attention to that moving forward. Moving on to Shrouded. Shrouded, we have around at $90-ish for both the sales and lowest list. The 30-day sell-through is pretty much neck and neck with the total availability on the market. Again, that's a pretty bullish indicator in my opinion. I highlighted it in yellow just because it's not exceeding that amount. Again, this is plus or minus a few ETBs, so it's probably essentially the same versus Prismatic. It was like way in advance, and you'll also see that with Paldean Fates. It's like, 30% higher than the total availability on the market. But Shrouded is low-key the sleeping giant right now, I think, in the sense that it's just been ignored for far too long. We'll see here that the price of 4 loose PC ETBs is essentially the exact same price as the cases. The lowest list is around the same going rate right now. And, actually, this was supposed to be up here. So, there are 56 cases total between eBay and TCG Player. I did want to put an asterisk that one seller on eBay has 11 PC ETB cases on auction going. So that will be interesting to see once those either sell or not. It's kind of a weird listing in my opinion. They all have the same picture, but it's 11 different listings. So I highlighted the 30-day sell-through in yellow again here because if you take away those 11 listings, whether they're real or not, you get pretty close to an equilibrium of selling versus what's available on the market. The biggest thing for Shrouded, in my opinion, in contrast to the Prismatic PC ETBs, is that the ratio of loose PC ETBs is pretty much a 1-to-1, like we were saying, to the cases. What that tells me is that the cases are probably a little bit undervalued. Part of that you can see is that the loose PC ETBs are up 7% in the last 30 days. The cases are pretty much stagnant, but I do think that there should be a higher case premium, whether that's 10, 20, 30%, whatever it is. I don't really know exactly. I just think that right now, sealed cases of Shrouded PC ETBs could be a good pickup. Again, not financial advice, not telling you what to buy, but this is just my opinion, looking at the data as objectively as I possibly can. Moving on to Paldean Fates, I think this one's similar to Prismatic and potentially 151, as we'll see, is getting absolutely chewed through. This one might be actually the craziest as far as the loose ETBs go, as far as a ratio of availability on the market versus how fast it's selling. So Paldean Fates is about 233 price average of recent sales, lowest list around 240 average. So in total right now, there are 54 loose PC ETBs of Paldean Fates on the market between eBay and TCG Player. In the last 30 days, 114 have sold, more than double what's available right now. I think this is probably going to push, I don't know, I would probably guess like 260, 270 in the next 30 days, if not more. I don't see why not. There's not really any resistance. We look at the month over month, both the loose and the cases especially are moving. Cases up 14.3%, loose up 3.8%. For loose is sitting at 930, between 900 and 960 right now. Cases around 1,000, so they're pretty close in price, in my opinion. The lowest listed case, though, is 1,200. You can find these for cheaper, probably on Instagram or Discord or Facebook. But I do think Paladin Fates, again, similar to Shrouded, has kind of been overlooked for too long. 151 and Prismatic seem to have just been the talk of the town for the longest time, which is fine. But cards like the Bubble Mew and the Paladin Fates Charizard and Gardevoir even have sort of tapered off and not been talked about as much. And I do think that Paladin Fates could also be a good pickup. I'm not trying to shill you on all four of these and say that you need to pick them up right now. Again, I'm just trying to show you some data that I thought was interesting. And to round it out for Paladin Fates, the cases in the last 30 days have also exceeded the amount available on the market currently. So if everything remains the same, we'll probably see the cases go up more in price in the next 30 days. And what I did want to indicate is just on eBay specifically, it's kind of interesting, the ratio of loose to case price. You could buy a case for, I think the most recent sales were like $9.99, and pretty much all the ETBs were like $230, $240 plus $10, $15 shipping. And so they're pretty much a 1-for-1, which sort of tells me again that the cases, at least the ones I saw on eBay, were sort of getting in that area where they're probably slightly undervalued compared to the loose price. But that could also just be because there are so few out there. As soon as one sells, it may tick up. So I don't know. Last set we'll talk about today, because this video is already getting pretty long, is none other than 151. This set has been talked about forever. I do think it is going to continue to perform and be one of the best sets in the entire Scarlet Violet era for obvious reasons. But it is by far the most expensive PCETB, so I would maybe, if you don't have capital or money to play with, I would not make huge plays on this. If you want one for your collection or for a future investment, it could be a good play, especially when we look at the month over month numbers. But it's just starting to reach that price point where it's like more expensive, double the price of all the regular booster boxes and stuff. And I'm pretty biased in terms of liking booster boxes over PCETBs. I've sold off all of my PCETBs besides my Prismatic. I have one more case, but that's just my personal preference. I'm not saying I'm not a believer in them. I just like booster boxes more, and that's kind of what I converted all those cases into. But let's just quickly review 151. So the average sales are around 475, lowest list between 515 and 560. 46 total available on the market right now between eBay and TCG Player. Last 30 days, 94 have sold. That's more than double, just barely, about double what the total availability on the market is. For loose, it's 1,900. Cases at 2,250. I really should make a column that's for case premium, honestly, and just do a ratio of cases over loose. I guess that's the opposite of this. So I guess we can see what the case premium is just by deducting this from 100%. But anyways, I'm rambling. I will maybe think about that more in a future video, how to represent that a little bit better. Lowest listed case right now, TCG Player had 1,645. Is that right? Let me double check that. Sorry about that. So we corrected that. If you didn't stick to the end of the video and you saw that metric, I apologize. But again, similar to Paladin Fates, 151 cases, PCETB cases, have still exceeded the availability on the market. So even at 2,000 to 2,500 a case, they are selling more than they are being listed on the market. For whatever reason, 151, there's just none of it out there. Look how many, same with Paladin Fates, but it's low single digits for the availability, mid to low single digits. So it's pretty impressive. The ratio is pretty even, I would say, in terms of like loose to case. I think it's because the price has already gotten pretty expensive. So it's kind of hit that equilibrium point. But I do think some of these other sets there can be some good opportunities. I personally like Shrouded and Paldean Fates case wise right now, and then loose Prismatic is definitely looking pretty attractive. I just don't see them reprinting PCETBs anymore for Prismatic. I could be wrong. Definitely not for the other 3 sets. So if you're thinking about picking them up, now could be a good time. Again, not financial advice, just something for you to think about. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to do this series for all other PCETBs for regular sets too. I know a lot of people enjoy PCETBs because booster boxes are too expensive for them. I mean, now these are all kind of getting really expensive as well. At least when they released, a lot of people were able to get PCETBs because they were just available in the Pokemon Center for a while. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in a new one soon. Peace.